Hey Cupcakes, Lisa here with what I don't think will be a very long video, but and you know, I just went for a run and my hair's wet and the light's all catawampus because it's dark and I'm using various precarious forms of lighting to try to make this video work. But I really wanted to talk with you a little bit about how I've been using my Tarot Pulse spread to balance energy. How I've been using it as a way both to reflect, basically to reflect how integrated or kind of off kilter I'm feeling in any given moment, and then to think about that as a prompt to work with tarot to kind of bring, raise energy in certain places and maybe lower it in others. And I'll talk a lot more about that when I do the spread. But while I have you here, because of the lighting, I'm sort of in a different part of my shrine room. I'm turned basically 180 degrees around. So I just wanted to give you a quick little tour. So first of all, these black cushions that you see behind me, these are Zabutons. They're the square cushions that go under meditation cushions, these round Zafus. And they're cushions I use in my mindfulness classes, in my meditation classes when I teach. And I don't have anywhere to put them. So where else are you going to store a whole bunch of meditation cushions than in your meditation shrine tarot room? So there you go. And then that altar behind me, it's not my main altar. It's basically it's my tarot altar, but it's my altar to wisdom and compassion. And the central figure there, that beautiful Kuan Yin, is really quite special to me. So Kuan Yin, the Bodhisattva of compassion, the female emanation of Kuan Yin, that actually belonged to my mother's father. And there's more to say about her. Both my parents' families escaped Nazi Germany in the 30s. And my mother's father was a pathologist. He was a doctor and an academic. He was a university man and, you know, quite an intellectual. And like many Germans of his day, you know, in the 20s, got really interested in Buddhism and in Japan. There's a whole slew of German, and interested in Asia and things Asian, in Eastern philosophy and religion. And so he traveled to Japan a lot and over the years had connections with Japan. And so I didn't know him very well because he died when I was just a little girl. But when he died, he had all of these like Buddhist icons and images and Japanese statuaries. And my mom got a few of them, and she had this Kuan Yin. And the Kuan Yin is actually, I have no idea how old it is. It's actually been broken a bunch, it seems like, and then repaired. And I don't know if my grandfather did that or if that was how he purchased it. So she's quite lovely. And she's holding a little citrine. You can't really see it. Next to her is a drawing, that green canvas print is a drawing of Prajnaparamita, of the female personification of the perfection of wisdom. Prajna is wisdom. And yeah, so those are the ladies that preside over my tarot practice. Okay. Oh, and I also wanted to show off my t-shirt. So my nephew Isaac, the wonderful Isaac, made this t-shirt for me. It's, I don't know if you can really see it, it's like an airplane, and that's a picture of Homer, my dog that passed away. Isn't that sweet? Bye, Homer. I love it. Okay, so Tarot Pulse reading. I have another video about the Tarot Pulse. Basically, the idea behind it is, it's kind of in keeping with my first foundation of learning to speak tarot, that there is only one tarot, because the Tarot Pulse reading asks that we see the interconnection between the major arcana and the minor arcana. Parenthetically, I hate those terms major and minor. I think they're very misleading, but we'll come back to that in other videos or in the Learn to Speak Tarot series. The Tarot Pulse reading, end parenthesis, coming back. The Tarot Pulse reading chooses 4 specific cards, goes through the deck, chooses 4 specific cards from the so-called major arcana. It chooses Strength, the Hermit, Justice, and Temperance. And these 4 cards correspond to 4 cardinal virtues. That's why I've picked these 4. They correspond to these virtues that go back at least to Plato as being kind of the cornerstone virtues of the well-examined life. So the hermit relates to prudence, to wisdom, and a wisdom that is based in a kind of reflection on the progress and temporal unfolding of things. In the original tarot cards of the 15th century and later, the hermit he's just an old man. He's Father Time. He's not carrying a lantern, he's carrying an hourglass. So his wisdom is very much bound to time. So the hermit is prudence, and prudence connects with earth, right? With embodiment, with nature, and with natural progression, with natural unfolding. The next, strength, fortitude. This is the suit of wands. This is about fire. This is about vigor. So strength corresponds with the wands. Justice with her sword, and with her keen ability to see all sides of a situation, right? To balance this against that. Justice is the trump card that coordinates with the suit of swords. It's the virtue that coordinates with the suit of swords. And finally, temperance, with both with the imagery of cups and water flowing, temperance, and as well with the ways in which temperance is all about how we reconcile opposites, how we bring things together, how we create more fluidity and balance in our lives. The virtue of temperance and the trump temperance correspond with the suit of cups. So in a Tarot Pulse reading, I use the major arcana to pull out the 4 cards, one from each of the minor arcana suits, that are going to give me my snapshot of these 4 aspects of my heart, of my life in this moment. Okay, so I'm going to do a Tarot Pulse reading and then talk about how that reading enables me to think about balancing energy in real time, right now, here and now, in this moment. Okay, so I'm going to flip and start tarot pulsing. So I'm going to dive into my Tarot Pulse reading with a relatively new deck in my collection. I finally joined the fan club of the Sacerdotito Tarot, got a copy of it, have done a few readings. This isn't going to be a review of the deck. There are things I already really like about it, things I don't like so well, but overall I'm enjoying it. This will be my first Tarot Pulse reading. So now with the Tarot Pulse reading, I'm just going to turn over the cards one at a time until I find the trumps that I'm looking for. Okay, so I've got my first trump card, the Hermit. The Hermit corresponds with the virtue of prudence and with the suit of pentacles. So I'm going to keep turning over now. Oh, and there we go, my first pentacle. So I'm going to keep turning over now until I find, my next trump card in the 4 cards that I'm looking for that correspond with the 4 virtues. So I'm looking for, again, the Hermit, Temperance, Justice, and Strength. So now I'm going to keep turning until I find either a Cups or the next trump card that I'm looking for. It's a nice way to, here we go, 7 of Cups. It's a nice way to get, sort of play with your deck, get to know it if you don't know it that well. So I'm going to keep turning these cards again until I find the trump that I'm looking for. The trump that I'm looking for. That sounds a little ominous in today's world. These are such glossy cards that they're slipping all over the place. Apologies. Justice. Okay. So now I'm going to be looking for a sword, the next sword card, or for strength. And there we go. We've got strength. So I'm looking for the next sword and the next wands. These are all great cards. The King of Wands. Yeah, okay. So now I'm going to be looking for just for a sword. You know, and it sometimes can happen with this method, this spread. Ooh, okay. I really like the Seven of Swords in this deck. Seven of Swords is a card that I used to hate, but I really have made my peace with it. So it can happen that you can get all the way through the deck without getting all the four, getting the minor cards you need. That can absolutely happen. And then you just go back to the beginning and you keep flipping until you get the minors that you need. But this went relatively quickly. Okay, so this row is my tarot pulse. So these are the 4 cards from the minor arcana that express where I am in this present moment. And it's important to note what order they're in. The first one that comes up tends to be the prevailing one. So, you know, I'm seeing the way in which work and collaboration and what it means to be part of a team, how central that is in this moment, what it means to be able to do the great work. The Three of Pentacles has been stalking me a fair amount lately, and it's really a card that I associate with my new job as chaplain and with what it means to be integrating myself into this new environment. I mean, I worked at the university for more than 20 years, and I left, and now I'm in a completely new job. And that's amazing. And then also just the way in which spiritual care as a discipline is all about a kind of sacred collaboration. So it makes sense perhaps that the Three of Pentacles and Pentacles per se is sort of predominating here. I'm struck by these 2 middle cards and how both the Seven of Cups and the Seven of Swords, first of all, 2 sevens. And for me in general, the sevens are a card that I associate with a sort of steadiness, with like kind of staying the course or keeping things in reserve, or perhaps you know, in the relationship between choice and the overabundance of options in the Seven of Cups, like finding a way to really take this moment and hitch your wagon, your chariot to the right kind of movement forward. So there's a kind of reserve and waiting quality in the middle of this spread. And then the King of Wands, you know, is all about, you know, air of fire in the way that I read the courts. He's all about a kind of overarching mastery of that vigor that I associate, that strength, that fortitude that I associate with the Wands. But something seems not quite right with these sevens. Like, this collaborative energy and this vigor are the bookends for something that feels like things are being held in reserve, that there's a kind of push toward a sort of steady movement forward, what I associate with the sevens, but in both the Seven of Cups and the Seven of Swords, that movement forward is kind of stalled. Through the sneakiness here and the kind of vacillation with too many options of the Seven of Cups. You know, at a certain point you just got to do it. That's what she needs to do. And then this gal, it's kind of like, you know, she can't do it alone. And that's how Stasia Burrington interprets the Seven of Swords. She's like, you know, 7 swords is more than this person needs. Yeah, which is totally right. Okay, so what I'm seeing then in this pulse, in this snapshot of this present moment for me, what I'm seeing is very much a need to somehow kind of find a way to kind of get on with it and move forward. That the energy and the collaborative work that are on both the ends of this tarot pulse are kind of stymied by the middle. So how could I unblock things. So here's where I want to think about a deck, a tarot deck that can help me work with the energy that is sort of latent here. And that's the energy of wands and the fire of wands, which kind of needs to push through this blockade in the swords and the cups. So I'm going to be looking now, thinking through the decks that I have, thinking about a deck that I could bring forward that would bring some fire into my world. Yeah. What decks do I have that have fire? That is a really great question. And I think it's going to be Raven's Prophecy. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to have the Raven's Prophecy be the deck that I work with tomorrow as I take my tarot pulse, as I set my intention for the day, either at the beginning of the day or in the middle of the day. And I use the imagery of this deck, which is a deck that has amazing fire to it, amazing creative force, amazing vigor, and also just the coloration of it. This is a very wandsy deck in my view. So I'm going to use Raven's Prophecy now to try to work with the blocked energy that this pulse reveals. All right, we'll see where it goes, and I'll do a follow-up video tomorrow or the next day. Okay, bye y'all.